Today, we are going to discuss the first chapter on ecology. We know that ecology is the study of relation between organisms and the surroundings. The surroundings include abiotic factors. So, how an organism is connected to that abiotic world, what is the type of interaction with the biotic world, that is, an organism is not at all living in isolation. You are having other organisms also. So, how it is interacting with other organisms, which may be of the same species or other species. So, all such relationship between organisms and their surrounding is called ecology. Study of relation between organisms and the surroundings. In ecology, there are 4 levels of organization. At the lowest level, you are having organisms. When all organisms of the same species which are all living together in an area, then it constitutes what is called a population. There will be so many different types of populations. So, for example, population of ants, populations of butterflies, population of other insects, population of earthworm. So, like that, you will be having large number of different types of population living in the same area. Then it constitutes what is called a community. All populations living in an area constitute a community. So many different types of communities which are in a very large area that is characterized by, that is enjoying a particular climatic condition is called the biome. Okay, that constitute the biome. So biome is a large area in which so many different types of communities are living. All that community and that area are enjoying a particular characteristic climatic condition. So the whole world is thus divided into a number of important biomes. Okay. All biomes together will constitute the biosphere. What is biosphere? That part of the world where living things are present. So that is the 4 levels of organization. Here we are now studying only the 2 lowermost grades of organization, that is organism and population, because they are all simple. Whereas the other 2, community and biomes, are more complex organizations and they are all very difficult to understand at this level. So we are all concentrating on these 2 lower levels of organization. Okay. Let us see. Ecology is basically concerned with 4 levels of biological organization. And ecology at the lowest level, that is organismic level. What is the relation between an organism and the surrounding? That study is called organismic level. It is essentially physiological ecology. Why we call it so? Because the ecology is concerned with the changes the environment is influencing on the physiology of an organism. An organism is responding to changes in the environment. Why the environment is changing? Why the abiotic factors are changing? There are two reasons why they are all changing. One, the tilt of the earth on its axis cause annual variations in intensity and duration of temperature, thus causing distinct seasons. That is one reason. Second one, rotation of our planet around the sun. It is not in a typical circular orbit. Sometimes we come close to the sun, sometimes a bit away. So that rotation around the sun and the tilt of the axis of the earth, these are all the two main reasons why there's a change in climatic conditions. The climate is never same throughout the year. It is going on changing. And what are the most important factors that influence the changes in temperature and changes in environment or climate? One is temperature. Temperature is number one factor. Number two, precipitation. What is precipitation? Total amount of rain or snowfall. Total amount of rain or snowfall. That is together called precipitation. Okay. That is the main reason. These two goes on changing. And it is the changes in temperature and precipitation that is occurring on different parts of the world that is responsible for different types of biomes in this world. I told you that biome is a large area that is characterized by a particular climate. That climate is mainly controlled by changes in the temperature and precipitation. And accordingly, we are having the important biomes like tropical forest, which is getting maximum rainfall or precipitation. It is getting almost 425 centimeters of rain. So from 150 to 425, that is the average precipitation, and temperature is below, just below 25. Now, temperate forest, coniferous forest, and Arctic and alpine. Here, temperature goes on decreasing. Okay, so you are having grasslands where temperature is higher and precipitation is also, see, what is the precipitation? Precipitation is very, very less, almost 100 centimeter per year. And in deserts, the precipitation is less than 50 centimeters. Actually, a desert is cooler. The average temperature is cooler than that of a grassland. Okay. Tropical rainforests are having a higher temperature than actually the desert. But what is the difference? Here you are having plenty of water in the form of precipitation, rainfall. You are getting plenty of. Here in desert, the water availability is very less. So both water, that is precipitation, and temperature are important in determining a biome. Okay. And in India, we are having almost all the different types of biomes except for permafrost. What is permafrost? An area which is covered with snow for a considerable duration of period in 1 year. If an area is covered with snow, then it is called permafrost. Except for such permafrost, almost all other biomes are available in India. Clear? There will be regional and local variations within each biome. So within a biome, there will be so many minor differences. Within a biome, there will be local variations, regional variations, that is resulting in the formation of different types of habitats. What is a habitat? Habitat is the area in which an organism is living. That is the address of an organism. Okay. Each organism will be preferring to live in a particular type of conditions, in a particular type of habitat, in a particular type of situation, which is ideal for its activities, ideal for its survival. That address, the place where an organism normally lives, is called its habitat. Another term connected to this is niche. What is niche? Niche means, it is also called niche. Niche is the profession. If habitat can be compared to the address, niche can be the profession. What that organism is doing in that habitat, how it is getting its energy, what is its role in that ecosystem. That is what is called niche. Okay. So you will be having habitat and niche. So within a biome itself, you will be having large number of different types of habitats. Okay. And let us study one by one. We are having the major biomes. The habitat include abiotic and biotic components. Okay. So the most important ones in abiotic are temperature, water, light, soil. These are all the different physical and chemical conditions that are determining a habitat. And also biotic components. What are the biotic components? What are the pathogens, parasites, predators, competitors, etc., which are all available, which are all present in that area. These organisms are constantly interacting among each other. They are interrelated and interacting each other. And that's how they have evolved. And through this interaction and interdependence, all organisms are evolving. They are evolving newer and newer adaptation to live, to successfully live and to survive in that environment, in that habitat. Okay. Each organism had an invariably defined range of conditions that it can tolerate. Diversity in the resource it utilizes and distinct functional role in the ecological system. What is the role? How it is living? How it is getting its energy? All these are together called niche or niche. Okay. Now we will be studying what are the most important abiotic factors, which are the physico-chemical components of the environment that is influencing the life of organisms. Temperature is the most important one. And almost all biomes are getting heat from sun. In some deep sea hydrothermal vents, where the heat of the sun or the light of the sun never reaches, it is permanently dark. In such very deep hydrothermal vents, heat is obtained from the crust of the earth by seismological or the form of hot springs, etc. They will be getting some heat. So, except for such rare special type of habitats, in all others, heat is obtained from temperature is obtained from sun. The availability of the heat, that is, the temperature of an area, depends upon two factors. What are they? One, latitude. In 0 degree latitude, that is at equator, temperature will be maximum, and as we go to higher and higher latitude, temperature decreases. So the latitude determines the temperature. Okay. 2, altitude. Altitude means height. For every 1000 meters, as you go up from the mean sea level, there will be an average fall in temperature of 6.5 degrees. This is called lapse rate. For every 1000 meter, there will be a decline in the temperature by about 6.5 degrees. Okay. So, temperature is influencing two important things. One, it is influencing directly the physiology of an organism. Why it is directly influencing? Because when temperature increases, the rate of metabolic reaction increases because of enzyme kinetics. That is, when temperature increases, say for example from 0 degree to 10 degrees, the rate of metabolism doubles. Again for another 10 degrees, again it becomes doubled. So this goes on till it reaches a maximum of 40 to 45 or even 50. Thereafter, if the temperature goes on increasing, there will be a decline. Why? Because enzymes become denatured. Enzymes are proteins. They become coagulated, precipitated in higher temperature. So, metabolism comes to a standstill. So, temperature is directly influencing the metabolism of an organism through enzyme kinetics. That is why I told you temperature is the most important factor in determining the metabolism. Number 2, temperature is also influencing the distribution of organisms. See, every organism will be finding a convenient place where temperature is tolerable to them. All organisms are not tolerant to wide changes in temperatures. They are confined to a narrow range sometimes. They can tolerate only that much of temperature. That is why they will be seen in certain areas only. So their distribution is limited. See, we cannot grow apple in Kerala because it is very hot. We cannot grow apple normally in Tamil Nadu because of high temperature. Similarly, mango trees cannot be grown in Canada or in Finland where temperature is very, very low. So each organism prefer to live in a special area because they are all preferring that range of temperature. Those organisms which can tolerate only a narrow range of temperature fluctuation are called stenothermic. Steno means narrow. It is called narrow. So, stenothermic. So, stenothermic will be confined to certain areas only. They cannot tolerate wide fluctuations, so they cannot be seen everywhere. Whereas, uri means broad, steno means narrow. Urethermal. Okay. Organisms will be capable of tolerating wide fluctuations. So water may be temperature, there is no problem. They will be seen or they can grow, they can live in such areas. Okay. Urethermal are warm-blooded birds and mammals, whereas stenothermal animals and plants are all stenothermal. They cannot control and keep a constant internal body temperature. Whereas most of the invertebrates, they are also having no constant or steady internal body temperature. So they are all living in an area or they will be confined to an area where the conditions are optimum for their body functions. Clear? Now, water is the second most important factor. We know that life evolved in water. And it is the watery medium that all metabolic activities are going. So, water is the elixir of life. Its availability is so limited in desert. Don't think that water is available plenty all over. It is a problem. Water getting is a problem in terrestrial animals. So they will have so many special features developed so as to keep their water level inside the body in a normal way. Well, don't think that aquatic animals are having no problem with water. No. Water is a universal solvent. So a large number of salts are dissolved in it. And when water is getting into the body, along with that, salts are also getting. Okay. So the amount of water and salt in the body is to be maintained constantly. That's why even a protozoan living in fresh water will be having a contractile vacuole. That contractile vacuole will be sending out unwanted excess water that enter into the body. Thus, they play an important role in osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Maintenance of a constant and steady water level in the body is called osmoregulation. Problem is for terrestrial organisms as well as for aquatic organisms. In aquatic organism, what is the salinity of the water? What is salinity? The amount of salt present in that water. Normally, in fresh water, it will be less than 5 ppm. In sea, it is usually 30 to 35 ppm. Whereas in a hypersaline lagoon, the ppm will be very high. It is more than 100. Okay, so it is very salty water. So how organisms are capable of? Some organisms can tolerate only a narrow range of salinities variation. Then it is called stenohaline. Steno means narrow. Stenohaline. They can tolerate only narrow fluctuations in the environment. So they will be confined to an area where the salinity is ideal for their body condition. So they cannot be widely distributed. They are all confined to only such areas. Whereas some organisms are euryhaline. Eury means broad. They can tolerate wide fluctuations. So they can move about and they can tolerate changes in the salinity in the surrounding water. Okay, so they will be widely distributed. This is the reason why many freshwater animals cannot live for long time in seawater, because freshwater and seawater are different in saline conditions, in salinity, and vice versa. That is, from sea, the fishes cannot come and live in freshwater also because of the osmotic problems that will be there. They have to face. Okay, so that is water. Light. Light and heat are from the same source, namely the sun. And as the temperature goes on changing from season to season, the amount of light is also going on changing. Intensity of the light is also changing. Duration of light is also changing. In winter season, daytime is very much narrow or small, short. Whereas in summer, daytime is comparatively longer. Okay. These fluctuations are causing a lot of changes, especially in the reproductive activities, not only of plants, but also animals. Generally, plants and animals will be influenced by the duration of the light. Many species of plants growing forests are adapted for photosynthetic optimum under low light conditions. They prefer only dim light, whereas others prefer very strong bright light. Okay. Many plants are depending upon sunlight to meet their photoperiodic requirement of flowering. Animals too are using these diurnal and seasonal variations like intensity and duration, and they adjust the cue for timing for foraging, reproduction, and migratory activities. And we all know that birds are migrating because of the seasonal changes. Okay, in the northern hemisphere, in winter, daytime is very much reduced, and so they migrate to the equatorial. And in the equatorial region, there is no much changes in the seasons. So here you are having plenty of light, and when summer arrives, it is so strong in equatorial region and very mild. Temperature is very mild in the northern hemisphere, so they migrate back to the north during summer. So such activities are occurring. Okay. In some part of the world, as I told you in the earlier, it is perpetually dark. In the great depths of ocean, environment is dark and the inhabitants are not aware of the existence of a celestial source of energy called sun, because neither heat nor light reach such deep areas. And how they get the source of their energy? Usually they will be mainly having chemo autotrophic organisms, and heterotrophic organisms will be getting their energy in the form of food raids. They will be usually detritivores. The dead bodies of animals which are living in the surface waters, they fall, and the organisms living there have to depend on such dead bodies, and they satisfy their energy needs. Okay. Now, for light, there is one more special interesting feature. The quality of the light. We know that the plain light is made up of 7 colors, and of these 7 colors, red is having the longest wavelength, And so they are having the great penetrating power. They can reach the deeper part of the ocean. So only such plants which can utilize these red rays reaching. See, blue, green, shorter wavelength will be scattered and absorbed as it enters into the water body. So only they will be having small penetrating power, and so they will be completely lost. They cannot reach the deeper part. Waves will be penetrating deeper, and so algae which are all living in great depths will be red algae which can utilize the red wavelength. Okay. Similarly, soil. Study of soil, pedology. Okay. And the property of the soil of different places are highly depending upon the climate, weathering process, and whether the soil is transported or sedimentary, and how soil development occurred. We are having a number of factors. The study of the soil as such as they are all formed is called pedology, and we have to study the physical and chemical nature of the soil, how the soil is formed, what is the composition, what are the special features. Remember that the soil is not the same everywhere. We are having generally different horizons. The soil horizon, their thickness, their composition, etc. will vary from place to place. And there are so many different types of soils. Alluvial soil, colluvial soil, Eovian soil. These are all soils which are all transported by water, wind, etc. So, how the soil is formed, whether they are transported by water, transported by wind, etc. It is a very interesting chapter for study. Okay, study of soil. In that, we have to study not only the physical and chemical properties of soil, but also the type of nature of the soil surface. Topography, that is also very important. Whether that area is a valley or a hill or a slopy area. Okay, so all such things, or a tableland, these are all to be studied, because soil composition, grain size, and aggregation, how they are all aggregated, they determine the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. Only if the water is present in the soil will plants grow. Only when plants are there, animals can come. Only when plants and animals are there, decomposers will thrive. So that depends a lot. So we are having a direct relation between the plant community and the soil type. And characteristics along with the parameters such as pH, mineral composition, and topography determine to a large extent the vegetation in an area, and in turn determines what type of animals it can support. And based upon that, we are having the typical type of decomposers. See, soil is not only important in terrestrial ecosystems, they are also important in aquatic bodies. What is the type of the bottom in a lake or in a pond or in sea? That determine the type of benthos. What are benthos? Organisms which are living in bottom. That's called benthic organisms. Okay, so benthic animals will be determined by the type of soil, sedimental characteristics, etc. present in the aquatic environments. Okay. Now, these are the 4 important abiotic factors. Now, we have studied that these abiotic factors are not stable, it goes on changing, but how an organism will be responding to some changes, to these changes, A very few number of organisms can maintain a constant and steady internal environment. Whatever may be the changes that is occurring outside, they will be maintaining a constant and steady internal environment in a dynamic condition. The condition may be changing, but anyhow, they maintain a consistency. That ability to maintain a constant, steady, dynamic internal environment is called homeostasis. And such organisms are thus capable of regulating whatever may be the external level, the internal level is always steady and stable. So, in this graph, you will be getting a horizontal line. Despite the changes in the external environment, the internal factors are all remaining same and steady. Okay, so they are all regulators. Only very few, especially vertebrates, they can maintain a constant steady water, salt and pH level in the body. And only birds and mammals among vertebrates are capable of maintaining a constant steady internal temperature also. For others, they cannot maintain a constant steady internal temperature. Only birds and mammals are warm-blooded or homeothermic. Even the temperature is maintained. So whatever may be the temperature out, the temperature is always kept the same. Okay, so they have developed a technique through thousands and thousands of years of, or actually millions of years of evolution, they have developed the technique of maintaining a constant and steady internal environment, which is called homeostasis. So they are all regulators. Only one vertebrate who cannot maintain a constant steady water level, osmoregulation, who cannot, is the hagfish mixing. In all others, we are having a constant level of water and salt maintained. In mixing and in all invertebrates and all plants, there is no consistency in the water, salt, temperature, etc. in the body. Okay, so their body conditions goes on changing. If the external level is very small, internal level is also small. And if the external level is high, internal condition is also high. Thus, there is no constancy of internal conditions. Their metabolic rate goes on changing. Such organisms are called conformers. They simply change according to the changes in the surrounding. That is meaning conforming. Okay. And very few organisms are capable of bringing some small changes, light changes. When the changes the outside environment is very small, they will be regulating. Okay. They will be regulating and will be keeping their body conditions stable. But when the outside environment condition become very, very wide, they cannot cope up with that. They also change. Such organisms are called partial regulators. So they regulate only if the changes in the environment are small or light. But when the changes are very high, they cannot maintain that constancy. And so they will simply change according to the changes in the surroundings. They are called partial regulators. Okay. Now, organisms have developed some technique through millions of years of evolution. What are the techniques? The organisms are having an ability to regulate. As they are regulating their constant and steady internal environment, they will be in homeostasis. But for that, they have to do a lot of work. They have to spend a lot of energy. And their metabolic machinery should be such advanced that every system, every part of their machinery should be under their control. So they should be highly evolved, highly advanced, having a sophisticated machinery for maintaining a constant, steady internal environment. And for running that machinery, they are ready to spend a lot of energy. Such organisms are called regulators. Okay, so they regulate and maintain a constant and steady internal environment despite the changes in the outside world. What is the advantage of spending so much of energy thus for maintaining a constancy? Since the metabolism is always at the same level, which is at the maximum, optimum level, they are most fit. They are physiologically fit. Okay, always. Whether the conditions outside are changing or they are all adverse, they are all fit to live because their metabolism is always the same. They are capable of maintaining a consistency in their internal conditions. So that is the advantage, for which they have to pay a huge fee. What is that? They have to spend a lot of energy. Okay, and their machinery should be so much advanced. So fully homeostatic organisms are birds and mammals. This is the reason why they are the most successful groups of organisms. The most important reason why mammals are the most successful is that they are all warm-blooded, homeostatic. So whatever may be their environment in which they are all present, whether they are in desert area or in polar area, they will be thriving there because their body temperature is always, their body condition is always at the maximum, optimum level. But they have to spend a lot of energy. Okay, it is energetically expensive. This is the reason why 99% of animals and all plants cannot maintain a constant, regular internal environment. So they simply conform. They simply conform. 99% of the animals and all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. Why? Because it is very energetically expensive and there should be so much of advanced machinery for maintaining that constancy. These organisms are poorly organized and so they are not having that machinery. This is the reason. So they are energetically poor. They are not having that much of energy to be wasted for maintaining a constant internal environment. So they simply adjust to changes. They simply undergo changes. Same time, there's a disadvantage. What is the disadvantage? Their metabolism will not be always at the maximum, optimum level. Instead, their metabolism will be below their optimum level, sub-optimum level. We simply call it as sub-optimal level. Okay, so in a mammal, always it is at the maximum optimal level. For others, it is at the lower level. It is not maximum and optimum. That is the advantage and disadvantage. So mammals and birds are having the advantage of always having a constant, steady internal environment for which they are all spending a lot of energy. This is the reason why small-sized animals like the hummingbirds and shrews. Hummingbird is a bird and shrew is a mammal. Both of them are warm-blooded, homeostatic. When they are all living in very cold areas, what's happening? When it is cold outside, these organisms are warm-blooded, So from their body, temperature is constantly lost. And to maintain that constancy in the body temperature, they have to spend a lot of energy for heat. So whatever they eat will be converted to energy, heat energy that is continuously lost from them. So it is not a profitable game. This is the reason why small sized animals and birds cannot live in polar areas, and birds and mammals, that is warm-blooded organisms of the polar areas, are larger in size. They are having some adaptations. Okay, these birds and mammals are larger in size, and their tip of the nose, snout, pinna, tail, limbs, etc. are very small. Why? Because to reduce the surface area. When surface area is reduced, the heat loss can be reduced, because heat loss is proportional to the surface area. So the surface area is reduced proportional to their volume. Heat loss will be minimum. This adaptation is called Allen's rule. Okay, this rule is called Allen's rule. What is that Allen's rule? Warm-blooded animals living in polar areas will be having small extensions or protrusions in the body. Okay, so small animals are rarely found in polar regions, and usually these warm-blooded animals are larger in size. Bergman's rule. Okay, so we are having two rules, Allen's rule and Bergman's rule. Only Allen's rule is given in our book, which says that they will be having smaller surface area. They will be having small extremities. Birds and mammals living in polar areas will be having small extremities. That is Allen's rule. They will be having large size, Bergman rule. Okay. So, organisms through millions of years of evolution have developed these two strategies, these two techniques, because of the changes in the surroundings. Now, if the stressful external conditions are localized, that is only in a small area or occurring only for a small period of an year, then they will have other techniques to cope up with. What is that? They simply migrate. If the condition becomes so extreme that they cannot, or they will be under difficulty to live there, simply they go to other places. Just like we are all going to high altitude hill stations in summer. In summer, in hill stations, temperature is low, so it is very comfortable there, and come back at the end of the summer season. Okay, so birds are characteristic. They show wonderful types of migrations, and they have a regular routine and calendar for migration. So birds even from northern polar region will reach Cuet National Park, that is Bharatpur in Rajasthan, because birds are now coming to these areas where there is no intensity of winter. Okay, and when summer arrives, they go back to the northern pole, polar regions. Two, they will stop all their metabolic activities and enter into long sleep. Long sleep is by suspending their metabolic activities to a minimum. This is called suspended animation. They enter into long sleep. Fishes, amphibians living in freshwater, they will be entering into a long sleep, and with bare minimum of water, they will be surviving in mud, buried in the mud bottom. They will be living. Okay. So they will be estivating because of summer. Similarly, polar bears, which are living in polar areas in winter because of extreme cold, they stop their activities, enter into long sleep that may last for months together. That's called estivation. So estivation, winter sleep. No. Estivation is summer sleep. Summer sleep. And hibernation, winter sleep. So these are all to avoid that stressful adverse environmental condition. So they stop their metabolic activities, bring their metabolic activities to a minimum and go to sleep. Okay, long sleep. So plants are also having this mechanism. They will be flowering and producing seeds and they die even before the advent of summer, most of the graminae, so that they need not expose themselves to the vagaries of summer. They will be completely converted into seeds, spores, etc. And they will be capable of surviving that extreme conditions. Hibernation in winter, estivation in summer. So this is the condition of remaining in a dormant, inactive condition. Similarly, the larval stages, they stop metamorphosing into the next larva stage if the conditions are unfavorable, and they remain in the same larva stage till conditions become favorable. That suspension is seen in many zooplanktons. Okay, this is called diapause, pausing in between. That's the meaning. Stopping that metabolic development, metamorphic development actually, in between two stages of the development, a stage of suspended development. Clear? So we are having so many such techniques to tide over. Now, what about adaptations? Every organism will be having a number of adaptations. What are adaptations? Special features that enable them to live successfully in their particular environment. For example, kangaroo rat never drink water. They will be getting water from oxidation of the fat, oxidation of their food, and internal fat oxidation is the source of this biological water. Similarly, many desert plants have thick cuticle on their leaf surfaces. They will be having sunken stoma. Okay, stomata will be sunken, and they will be having a crassolucian acid metabolic pathway, CAM metabolic or photosynthetic pathway, so that they need not open the stomata during their daytime. So when the stomata are open, normally water loss will be naturally occurring. So to prevent that, they will be closing the stomata during daytime and it will be open only at night. Okay. So we are having a number of adaptations seen in desert plants. Similarly, mammals in colder areas, I told you, they will be having shorter extremities, shorter ears and limbs. This is called Allen's rule. The polar sea, aquatic mammals are living, seals. Similarly, we are having the whales. They will be having a thick layer of blubber, a thick layer of fat called blubber below the skin that act as a blanket, act as an insulator that reduce the loss of heat from the body. Now, some organisms are capable of living in some extreme conditions. So, for example, people who are living in high altitude where oxygen availability is less, they will adapt physiologically, that is called acclimatization. They temporarily bring about changes in the RBC level, hemoglobin level, heart rate, respiratory rate, etc. These are all temporary. When they come back, their body conditions are again coming back. So they will be adjusting by physiology, physiological acclimatization is there. Similarly, metabolic reactions are all also helping in living in such extreme conditions. You are having archaebacteria which are all living in extreme hot boiling waters. They will be having special type of cell wall and cell membrane. Their cell membrane will be having unusually long, highly branched fatty acids connected to the glycerol by ether bonds, which is enabling them to tolerate wide fluctuations, wide changes in temperature, even if the surrounding environment is very hot. They are living in hot boiling water. Okay, they are capable of living in such conditions. Fishes are capable of living in extreme cold conditions because they are having anti-freeze proteins. They are having some proteins which will be preventing the freezing of water. They also store glycerol, not water. So ice nucleating proteins, anti-freeze proteins are all protecting this protein from freezing. Similarly, fishes are living in great depths. They will be having some enzymes for producing trimethyl amine oxide, TMAO. Trimethyl amine oxide enzyme for producing, which is capable of withstanding high pressure. Okay. Also, they will be having an ability to maintain a high pressure within than the surrounding pressure. So it is by adjusting their body conditions by physiological mechanisms that these organisms are capable of living in such conditions. Okay. There are organisms which are not having such ability to bring about changes in the physiology. For them, they bring about changes in their behavior. For example, we are having some lizards living in desert. They avoid extreme hot by hiding in shades, in burrows. When it is too hot, they will never come out. And when their body metabolism is very low, they come out and bask in the sun. So their body will absorb heat from the sun and their body temperature increases. When the body temperature increases, their metabolic rate also increases. Now they become comfortable. When they reach that comfortable zone, they go to shady places. So by behavior, also we can maintain our physiological conditions at the optimum level. So organisms have developed methodologies either physiologically or by their behavioral pattern to cope up with the changes in the surroundings. Clear? So with that, we come to the conclusion of the discussion of the first part, namely organisms. So remember that the relation between organism and the environment, organismic ecology is essentially the physiological ecology. Now we go to population. So population is a group of organisms of the same species living in an area. Okay. When we define species, we know that we also include reproduction, the ability to reproduce. Here, any type of reproduction is sufficient. So all these members which are reproducing among themselves, living in an area, constitute the population. Okay. So population will be having a number of characteristics. Though population is made up of organisms, the characters of the organisms are not the characters of the population. Population is having its own unique characteristics. They are called population attributes. For example, a population will be having natality, birth rate, not birth. Number of birth to the original number of population is called birth rate. Similarly, death rate. Death rate is number of death to the original population divided by original population. That is called death rate. Okay. Then a population will be having sex ratio. What is the number of organisms of one sex to the opposite sex? That is called sex ratio. A population is having no sex but sex ratio. Similarly, the most important feature is density of the population. What is density of population? Density simply means the total number of populations. Okay. And the density of population will be varying. In a population, you will be having different types of organisms belonging to different age groups. All of them are not of the same age. And the most accepted and convenient classification of age distribution is pre-reproductive, that is young, reproductive, which is now actively engaged in, and old, which has lost that ability to reproduction, post-reproductive. And if you arrange the proportionate number of rectangles proportionate to the number of organisms of this age group, we will get certain pyramids, which are called age pyramids. If the age pyramid is having a very broad slope, a very broad base and a narrow apex, it is called an upright pyramid. It shows that population is expanding. And here, it is not so slopey. There is not much difference between pre-reproductive and reproductive. That means population has almost stabilized. And if the pre-reproductive is smaller than the reproductive, we get an inverted pyramid, which indicates that population is declining. Okay. How we calculate the density of population? It is mainly based upon the number. Density is the most important parameter because whatever changes you study in ecosystem will be having a bearing on its density. Population density is simply meaning the number, but sometimes number will be meaningless or will be of no use. So, for example, you are having a very big tree and large number of small plants. So, it is not the absolute number that is important. Who is playing an important role? Who is having the biomass or the canopy area? That is taken. That single tree, big tree, will be having a very huge mass. It will be covering a large canopy, whereas all these plants together will be constituting only a very small part of biomass, or will be having very small area that is covered. So, in such areas or in such conditions, absolute number is not important, but it is the biomass or the canopy area that is important. Sometimes instead of density, relative density is also important. We can determine the density either by counting directly, but sometimes that become very difficult or non-practicable. Then we can have indirect methods. We are all taking the census of birds, animals, not by exactly counting, but we are having techniques for taking their footprints and other pug marks, etc. Okay, so it is based upon indirect techniques that we are all very often taking the density. And the density is never stable. It goes on changing. What are the factors that affect this population? Two factors are always trying to increase the population density. The two are negatively affecting, weak, that is causing a decline in density. So, for example, natality, that is the number of birth during a given period, that will be increasing. Similarly, immigration, number of individuals that are coming to an area from the surroundings, that is immigration. Similarly, mortality and immigration are negatively influencing. What is mortality? Number of deaths in the population during a given period. And immigration is number of members going to other areas. There are number of individuals of the population who left the habitat and gone out. These two factors are negatively influencing. So, after a time t, what will be the new population density? You are having an easy equation. So, this is the original population, and this original population is undergoing changes in time t. So, population after time t is equal to total of the increasing factors, that is birth rate or natality and immigration, minus negative factors which decline the density, death, mortality and immigration. Okay, so this will be giving you the new population density in a area after a time t. Remember that. Immigration and immigration are not usually very significant. They are significant only in some areas, in certain times only. But natality and mortality are the two most important factors that are responsible for the changes in the density of a population. Okay. And we are having two growth models. When the conditions are always favorable and resources are aplenty, we are having abundance of resources, then population will be growing in a J-like fashion. That J curve is obtained when population is growing steadily, always. Okay. In a exponential or in a geometrical way, population is always growing. Okay. In a geometrical fashion. This type of population growth will be continued when the organisms are utilizing all their ability in reproduction. So, what is the change in the rate of population? Dn, difference in number divided by difference in time. That is the rate of change in population. Rate of change in population will be per capita birth rate minus per capita death rate. This is an indication. Per capita birth rate and per capita death rate. The difference is called R value, intrinsic rate of natural increase, or simply we can also call it as biotic potential. What is this biotic potential or intrinsic rate of natural increase? What is the contribution of one member of that population in this increase in population? That is what is called intrinsic rate of natural. For example, the intrinsic rate of increase in population of man is 0.0205, meaning that is the contribution of one individual, one man in increase in the human population. That means if you remove the decimal we get 205 out of 10,000. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 decimals we remove. Okay. So 10, 100,000, 10,000. So out of 10,000, 205 people are newly formed in 1 year, in unit time. That's the meaning. This is the contribution. So every 10,000 people are contributing to the growth by 205 people, or the contribution of one individual is 0.0205. That's the meaning of intrinsic rate of natural increase or biotic potential. So divided into total number of, what is the total number of people in this state or in this country? That will be giving you the value dn by dt, that is rate of change in population. Difference in number by difference in time, that is the rate and change in population size. So if population is growing in a steady exponential or geometrical fashion, we can predict what will be the population. Just like we calculated how the number of molecules are produced in a PCR, because we are giving all the conditions favorable and the molecule goes on producing, doubling. Exactly like that, we can predict what will be the population size after a time t. This is n after a time t, density after time t will be n0, that is original population, into e to the power of rt, where e is equal to the base of the logarithm, natural logarithm, that is 2.71, and e, okay, r is equal to intrinsic rate of natural increase and t in time in the same unit. That population is growing steadily. So we can calculate how much of population will be there after a time t. But remember that this type of population growth cannot occur in nature, because in nature resources are today or tomorrow becoming limiting. No resource is a plenty. So today or tomorrow the resources become limiting. So population cannot grow in this way. They will be following a different pattern, which is growing in a sigmoid fashion. So sigmoid curve growth. This is for naturalistic population, realistic populations, where population cannot grow beyond a limit. Why? Because there is another factor called environmental factor. That is a factor exerted, a pressure exerted on population by nature, a negative pressure. Okay. Intrinsic rate of natural increase is a positive one. That means it is a pressure or it is an ability to increase the population, but nature is having an opposite pressure exerted. That is called environmental resistance. Because of this environmental resistance, population cannot grow, and population is thus maintained at a definite level, maximum level, called the asymptote, which is called the carrying capacity K. Population cannot grow beyond this carrying capacity. What is this carrying capacity? Maximum number of population the environment can sustain in a situation. That's called carrying capacity. Population cannot grow beyond that, because nature is having a number of weapons on her tools, as her tools, to reduce, to maintain a balance in nature, equilibrium in nature. A natural balance is there between different populations. So it will bring restrictions to the growth by different forms, in different ways. Thus, population is maintained at a constant steady after a growth pattern. So, in this sigmoid, we'll be having first a slow growth, lag phase, then it picks up a log, it is accelerating, then a log phase, this is the log, this is the lag, acceleration, then it slows down, deceleration, and finally it reaches asymptote, a steady state. At that time, you have reached the biotic potential equal to that of the environmental resistance. So, biotic potential by environmental resistance become equal at that level. So, population cannot grow or will not decline much. Okay. So, here dn by dt is not r into n, but it is r into n into k minus n by k. What is this k? K minus n by k is called environmental resistance. K is the carrying capacity. So, in all natural population, growth is not continuous. After growth become stable. That stable level is called the carrying capacity. This is occurring in all natural population, and this is called Verhulst-Pearl logistic curve. Okay, so carrying capacity, Verhulst-Pearl logistic growth pattern. So there are two basic patterns for growth in populations. J curve, exponential growth. Sigmoid curve growth, realistic growth. Okay. Then, because of the changes, because of the influences, because of the pressure exerted by the abiotic factors of the environment, organisms have undergone a lot of changes. Okay, they have developed so many techniques, and these techniques they evolved even in their reproductive strategies. So, organisms have brought about different techniques to overcome such changes in the factors in their evolution, in their reproductive capacity through millions and millions of years of evolution. Some organisms are assimilating or accumulating all their energy throughout their life, and at the end they reproduce. They reproduce only once. That is seen in salmon fish, bamboo, etc. So they reproduce only once. That technique or that strategy is called Semmel Parry. It is called Semmel Parry. Whereas many others will reproduce many a time, year after year, or within the same year, they will be reproducing several times. It is called Parry. So these are the two techniques. Some organisms will produce a very large number of small sized young ones. That is, they will use their art strategy. They produce a very large number of small young ones so that at least few of them will reach the adult stage. Others will die. Okay. Whereas some others will produce only very small number of large sized young ones, as is the case of birds, mammals, etc. They produce large sized young ones but few in number, so that most of them will be, almost all of them will be reaching the adult stage. So they have developed so many different techniques. Some use ML parry, some use ETO parry, some are utilizing R strategy, some are utilizing K strategy. K is carrying capacity strategy. Thus, it is the long history of changes undergone by organisms because of the influence of the external environment that made them to evolve from simple to complex. That is why evolution of life history traits of different species is very, very important, because history traits of organisms have evolved in relation to the constraints, restrictions imposed by the abiotic and biotic components of the habitat in which they live. That is why they are all forced to evolve. They are forced to produce newer and newer techniques, newer and newer structures, and that's how they evolved from simple to complex. So it is because of the stress and strain imposed by the abiotic and biotic world surrounding them that they cause them even to evolve. Clear? Now we come to the last part of this chapter, namely population interactions. Remember that there will be so many different types of population living in a community, and they will be engaged in different types of interdependence and interaction. There may be of two types, intra-specific and inter-specific. In intra-specific, members within the same species are interacting. But more important is the interaction between members of two different species. Such inter-specific interactions are very, very important in even evolution. Even Darwin had understood the importance of interspecific interactions in evolution. Okay, and we can designate these interactions by simple letters. If by an interaction, if a population is benefited, it is called positive, or it is marked as positive. If a population is harmed, it is negative. And if there is no benefit nor harm, it is unaffected, it is marked as 0. Clear? Now let us study the most important types of interactions. Okay? We are having predation. It is prey-predator relationship. Okay. Prey-predator. Prey is losing its life. Predator is getting its food benefit. So this relationship can be marked like that. Remember, in 3 interactions, predation, parasitism and commensalism, the 2 participating populations should be remaining. The interacting species will be living close together. So, prey-predator. Don't think that only carnivores are predators. No, even a herbivore, a bird eating a seed, is also a type of predation. And it is by predation that most of the organisms are getting energy. Animals are getting energy by eating on others. Even a herbivore has to get energy by eating plant materials. So it acts as a conduit for energy transfer, a channel through which energy is flowing. That is number 1 significance. 2, they keep the prey population under control. If there is no enemy, predator, the population will grow uncontrollably. This is what is explained by introduction of a prickly pear cactus on Australia by the British. This cactus became so invasive, they began to spread to other cultivable land also. why this plant became invasive in Australia, but it is not causing any problem in Mexico from where they were imported. It is because that in their native place, there is a moth that is feeding on, a predator that is eating on the cactus. So because of the predator, the cactus population was kept under control. When this was imported into Australian soil, there is no natural enemy. So in absence of a natural enemy, they began to grow without any control. That's why they became soon invasive. So we learned a great lesson of biological control of population, that is pest control mechanism from this great event. Okay, so that is number 2. 3. A predator will be also helping in maintaining diversity among prey communities. There will be so many different types of prey communities because of the presence of a predator. When the predator, so for example, the pizza star, pink starfish, that was a predator. When that was removed from an area, in a research, it was found that within 1 year, 10 invertebrate species on which the predator was feeding, the starfish, pizza star was feeding, they were completely removed. So only because of the presence of a predator, the prey population were maintaining a diversity. Different types of different varieties of prey population were existing. And fourth important feature is that predators are too prudent. They will never kill for fun, because they know that when the predators know that when the prey population is destroyed, they themselves are suffering at last. Okay, they have to suffer at the end. So they will never. So these organisms have developed a number of techniques. They have developed a number of adaptations, both predator and prey. Thus show what is called co-evolution. What is the technique developed by a predator to get the prey easily? So they will be hiding, camouflaging, and a predator will also have the camouflage to avoid being detected by a predator. Okay, a plant which is easily eaten by herbivores, they will be having a number of special features. Why? Because a plant cannot run away from a predator. So they are all very, very dangerous. They are all very, very precautious. So they produce thorns to protect themselves. The leaves become waxy or glandular. They will be producing irritating chemicals. That's why many plants are storing some harmful chemicals. The plant which is having cardiac glycosides. Okay, you will be having cardiac glycosides. Classical example is calotropis. No herbivore will come and eat on them because of the presence of this chemical. Thus, many plants are producing and storing these chemicals as a metabolic product. They are producing, not as a waste. They are produced on purpose. Many substances that we extract from plants on a commercial scale are produced by them actually as a defense mechanism against grazers and browsers. Some organisms will be showing mimicry to escape from predators, as is shown by the monarch butterfly and the viceroy butterfly. Viceroy is mimicking the monarch. The monarch is having dangerous chemicals stored in its body, so no bird will eat it. Thus, their body is made unpalatable for the birds. And the viceroy butterfly will be mimicking a monarch. so that bird will think that it is a monarch. Monarch is unpalatable, so they will also avoid eating a viceroy butterfly. Because of mimicry, some organisms are escaping. Okay, so they will be developing a number of such tactics. Next one is competition. What is competition? Let us see. In competition, both partners are negatively affected. So it is negative, negative. Competition can occur even between unrelated species. So, for example, the flamingos and aquatic fishes, freshwater fishes in South American lakes, they are all competing for the same food, namely zooplankton. So, flamingos and resident fishes are competing for the same food. They belong to two different classes. Okay, even then, they are not at all related, even then they are competing. Second one, even the resources are plenty, they will compete. That is what is called interference competition. Because of the presence of another species, the R value of one species will be reduced. This type of action is called, or this type of interaction is called the interference competition. Sometimes competition may be so severe that it will be resulting in the elimination of a less adapted one, and only the better adapted one will be surviving, as is shown by the experiment of George Gauss. He did experiment with paramecium, and the less adapted will be eliminated, and the highly adapted paramecium Aurelia sustained, paramecium chordatum was eliminated. We also have a classical example for this. When goats were introduced in Galapagos Island, the native, large size, Abingdon tortoise were completely eliminated because goats were having better browsing ability. They are superior, they are more adapted than a reptile. That is the Galapagos tortoises, Abingdon tortoises. So they were completely eliminated within a short time. But that need not always occur, or that need not always be true for all populations. If resources are abundant, competitive exclusion principle may not be working. That was proved by the works of Robert MacArthur. He studied and found that 5 species of warblers are living in the same tree. There is plenty of food. They share the resources. This is what is called resource partitioning. So there is no elimination always occurring. If resources are plenty, there need not be elimination. There need not be the competition, exclusion, but you will be having, they will be avoiding competition and coexist due to behavioral differences in their foraging activities. That was studied by MacArthur. And another important phenomenon is that because of competition, the superior will be dominating an area, and an inferior population, less adapted one, smaller population, will be confined to a narrow area where there is no influence by the dominant one. That is shown by the experiment of Cornell. He studied that Balanus, a superior one, and Thamallus, a smaller one, they are all showing what is called a competitive release. Because of the presence of a superior Balanus, the Thamallus is confined to a narrow area, that is to the upper reaches of the intertidal rocky coast. And when that Balanus is removed, the Thamallus is gradually extending and coming even to the deeper areas. So why it is not normally occurring in deeper parts? Because of the competition from the superior. When that superior bananas are removed, it is extending its area of occupation. That is what is called competitive release. So these are some of the important facts that we have to remember in connection with the interaction competition. Then comes parasitism. Parasitism is an interaction where you are having one member acting as the host, which is always harmed. So one is always getting harmed, the other one is getting benefit. The one which is getting benefit is the parasite. You are having ectoparasites, endoparasites. No parasite will be doing any benefit to the host. It always take benefit out of the host and is doing some harm. Okay. They have a number of adaptations which are called parasitic adaptations to live in the host body. The host will develop countermeasures to avoid the attack by a parasite. So they will be having what is called co-evolution. They will be evolving simultaneously. They show co-evolution. Okay. Mosquito is never a parasite because it is never spending any stage in our body. Only females are coming and sucking blood, and that blood is used for the maturation of her eggs. It is never a parasite, it is only a vector. Okay. Now, you are having brood parasitism shown by coil and cuckoo. Cuckoo will never lay eggs on her own nest. She will never make a nest. Instead, she will always cheat the crow by laying eggs on crows. So for that, the breeding season, the shape and size of the egg, etc. should be so matching. Then only this technique of brood parasitism will be effective. Among the ectoparasites and endoparasites are showing much more extensive adaptations to live inside the body of the host. Okay. So it is another type of interaction where one is getting harm, the other one is only getting benefit. Okay. Now we go to the next one. Commensalism. In commensalism, only one is getting the benefit. The other is neither benefited nor harmed. For example, epiphytes, climbers, they will never take anything from the woody, strong tree. They just remain attached to that one for support. So the big tree is neither benefited nor harmed, whereas the climbers or epiphytes are getting the benefit. Similarly, cattle egret and cattle, when cattle are grazing, they will be flushing out insects which are all hidden in the grasses, and the egret will be taking them. So cattle is getting no benefit, egret is getting benefit. Similarly, you are having suckerfish and the scoliodon shark. Shark is not getting any benefit, but suckerfish gets attached to the body of a shark, and so it gets a free ride. Then interaction between the small clownfish and the sea anemone. It is a classical example. Okay. Sea anemone is getting no benefit nor harm, whereas the fish is getting protection from predators. So these are all typical examples for what is called commensalism. Here only one is getting benefit. And the second one, now the last one we are now to discuss is mutualism. In mutualism, both partners are benefited. Okay, both are benefited. There are two types of mutualism. Facultative mutualism. That is, only when they are coming in association, both will be benefited, but each of them can live independently also. This is also called proto-cooperation. This word is not in our book. Proto-cooperation, facultative. For example, a crow sitting on the back of a cattle, eating on the insect pests which are all attached to the body of the cattle. So, cattle is getting the benefit of, or what is the benefit? The ectoparasites are completely removed, so it is getting relief. Bird is getting its food, so both of them are. Similarly, the crocodile and crocodile bird, bird is getting food, crocodile is getting its teeth cleaned. So, they can live independently also. Only when they come in association, both will be benefited. Whereas the other type is obligate. It is called obligate mutualism, like lichens, mycorrhiza. It is called symbiosis. They can live only in this condition. Obligate mutualism is called symbiosis. Okay. Lichens, the classical example, the association between the fungi and the roots of other higher plants. That is another classical example. Now, the relation between many plants and its pollinators. Pollinators are insects, and insects are given some food, nectar, pollen. So, insects are getting benefit. The plant is also getting pollinated. So, both of them are getting benefit. And there's a classical example where a flower is mimicking the female insect so as to attract the males. And this is seen in orchids. Ophrys musifera. Ophrys musifera is an orchid which is having its flower petals resembling a female bee called aureus, so that a male will think that it's a female sitting there. It will immediately come and try to copulate. It is actually pseudo copulation. So the flower is mimicking a female. Okay, so that a male will be attracted, alluring mimicry, so that male will be coming and copulating. But that poor male is not given any, or it is not getting any actual benefit. Flower is getting the benefit. So, without giving a proper fee, it is getting a benefit. Classical example where it is deceiving sexually. So, this is called a classical example for sexual deceit. Okay. You will be having the colpa flower, sorry, the Ophrys musifera flower. Ophrys is mimicking a female colpa aureus. That's a bumblebee. Okay. And seeing this, it is showing mimicry. Seeing this, a male bee, male colpa, thinks that it is a female sitting there. So it comes and performs pseudo copulation. And what is the benefit this Ophrys is getting? Ophrys is getting pollinated. So Ophrys is getting the benefit. It is being pollinated by the male, but male is not getting actually any benefit. And this colpa can mate with a female. That is normal fertilization. It can also occur. Okay. Thus, this flower, Ophrys and colpa, they are all exactly similar in appearance. They show what is called co-evolution. Any change in the structure of a female should be copied by immediately by this office, then only this technique will be always working. Otherwise, the technique will fail. Clear? So, we are having such an interesting case of sexual deceit shown by a bee pollinator orchid by name Ophrys musifera. Okay, so here you can see how coevolution is operating, and coevolution is also there between flowers and insects. For example, ficus plants are normally pollinated by a particular species of wasp. Only that particular species of wasp can pollinate them. So we are having interesting examples where there is a very close relationship between the pollinator organism and the flowers, the plants. So most of the plants are pollinated by insects by providing a small fee in the form of nectar or in the form of seeds or in the form of pollen grains. Okay. Insects are pollinating them for their food, and the plants are getting the benefit of being pollinated. So these are some of the interesting interactions in populations. And with that, we come to the conclusion of the discussion of the present chapter. We'll be meeting with another chapter next time. Until then, goodbye. Thank you all. Thank you very much.